I am pleased to bring to you my review of the prequel to Ash by Malinda Lo, Huntress. Now, I'm reviewing Huntress first because, well, I read it first. I didn't know that it was a prequel to Ash until later on, and after that I downloaded and read Ash onto here, my handy-dandy trusty little iPod, and I was very happy to have read both books. It was recommended to me by my friend Dennis Upkins, and it was a fantastic recommendation. This is a strong, character-driven fantasy story set in an original world, and it deals with the fact that nature is now out of whack. The summers are getting shorter, crops are not yielding as much food as they should, plants and vegetation are dying, the winters are getting longer and harder, and there's civil unrest in the south of the kingdom, and everyone's wondering what's going on. All of a sudden, there's a summons to the fairy court to meet the fairy queen within her city, to meet and figure out just what the heck's going on with the world, because, well, everyone's kind of suffering right now. The entourage that is sent to meet with the fairy queen consists not only of the king's son, well, the prince, but of two young women, Kada and Tyson. Both are attendees at a school for sages, what they basically call sorcerers or magic users in this world. And Tyson is sent because she's a young protege, and Kada is sent because she figures prominently into the vision that Tyson has of her. Now, one of the things this story does is that it features a relationship between two women with none of the prejudices of the real world, which is something I'm really glad to see. This, as fantasy fiction, we should be getting away from all that prejudice stuff. It's just there. It's normal, which is what it should be considered in the real world. You know, it's normal. It's love. How can you hate on love? I like to think that the lack of prejudice, well, shoot, that's bad. I'm not going to call it lack. I like to think that because there are no prejudices, no hatred, or no marginalization of love between women also extends to men. Because, well, I didn't really see any relationships between men as lovers, as partners in this world. But I like to think so. It's just the kind of world that the author, Malinda Lo, created. I like to bring that interpretation to this world, too. Now, one of the really interesting things that this does is that there is a love that grows between Kada and Tyson. When Tyson has that vision of Kada, and it actually is the first chapter of this book, she realizes within that vision that she has, well, a great love for Kada, and she doesn't know why. And as the story progresses, you see that love between the two grow and become stronger. And it's not only there to be there, but it's also vitally important to the plot. To the best of my memory, I do not recall any fantasy stories where the love between two characters, two same-sex characters in a fantasy setting, is important to solving the world's problems. Because, well, that's a really rather nice sentiment, don't you think? It is, love conquers all. You know, love will set things right. All you need is love. That was a J-pop band, a song from like the mid-90s. I can't remember. But anyhow, it's really original in doing that. I'm pretty sure there are fantasy stories where the love between a man and a woman is important to the plot and it helps defeat evil and all that, but I haven't seen any with two same-sex characters. And that's just fantastic. I love that. One other thing that I've been thinking about is that there's no rape in this story. I've been very lucky to have been invited and accepted as part of a website, Ars Marginal, which talks about social justice issues, popular media, popular culture, and how they intersect. One article that I read called Rape and My Anti-Tolkien which I highly recommend you seek out, and of course I will be providing a link in the end credits, is that whenever a fantasy tries to be edgy or dark, or, well, actually maybe just from my own experience, whenever I read fantasy in general, there has to be rape in it. It has to be there. No good reason, it just has to be there. And there's none here. There's no mention of it. It does not affect the lives of anyone in this story, and it's really good to see. I mean, one author who I read, Mercedes Lackey, looking back on those books, there's just rape in it. I mean, why? Why have it? Even if, the rape takes place, off screen, so to speak, it has come to affect characters that you see on screen, or in the pages of the book, I should say. And I just, no. I mean, one prime example in that article is George R. R. Martin's A Crown of Thorns, because there's like rape. I mean, no, come on. This is fantasy. There's enough rape in the world. I think we can honestly leave it in the real world, dive into some escapism, and just have a good time without that kind of crap coming up and affecting women, or it having to be a part of their character to define them. What defines, luckily, as there is none of that in this story, you do get a look into Kata and Tyson's characters and what they want. Tyson wants to be a sage, which means they have to take a vow of celibacy, not just from sex, but from love. Because to use magic in this world requires a lot of concentration. You're dealing with the life energies of the world. And apparently if you're in love, like, I love her. Kaboom! Oh my god, I just blew up a mountain. That kind of thing. And Kata herself, while she's completely inept at magic, she's actually a rather skilled warrior, and she wants to figure out what she wants to do with her life without the pressures of her father deciding her life for her. And you get to see her progress as a warrior. She's actually good at knife throwing and using knives and short swords in the beginning, but as the story goes on, she gets better with the bow and arrow. She talks with some of the guards about being guards, and the notion or the idea, well, I should say, the reality of being a guard and of having to kill sometimes, that comes up. But it's handled really rather well. Even the guards in the story, who are, they're not the main characters, they're giving some strong depth so that when bad things happen, you care about everyone. You honestly don't see that. These guards are not red shirts. The only other person to ever do that was, well, Terry Pratchett in Guards, which I highly recommend. I honestly can't say much more about this story because I don't want to spoil the events of it, and I want you to buy it, to get it out of a bookstore, download it on your iPod or iPad or whatever electronic means you have of reading it, because this story deserves to be read. It deserves your time and attention. It's wonderful. I mean, I've actually started rereading it again, and even on the second time through, it's just as good as it was the first time. Well, maybe not just as good because, well, again, you know what happens. But aside from that, it's still really, really good. Again, I just cannot recommend this enough to you, and you should buy it, download it, and get it, and read it, and enjoy it, because this is not a waste of time, it's not a waste of money. I'm Triple J, that's all I've got to say. Take care.